I am Senator James Gray. Today we will be having public hearings on two House bills, House Bill 380 and 383, in addition to an executive session. Before I get started, I will read through the checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Senate Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's executive order 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's executive order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom, a webinar. For this electronic meeting, all members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously watch and listen to the meeting on Zoom and YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided in the general court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar, and we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there is a problem with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us or call 603-271-6931. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn and reschedule. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let us start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where you are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell.
I am in my home in Hampstead in my office/kitchen, and my husband is in the office upstairs, and he will be coming through periodically.
Senator Ward.
I'm in my home and started. I am alone in the room.
Senator Susie.
Morning, this is Donna Susie. I am at my home in Manchester and I'm alone.
And Senator Perkins Quokka.
Morning, Senator Perkins Quokka. I'm at my home in Portsmouth and I'm alone in the room.
And as I stated earlier, I am James Gray. I'm at my home in Rochester in District 6, and I'm alone in this room. Okay, without further ado, I would take a motion to go into executive session.
Move we go into executive session?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Susie.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We're in executive session. The bill before us is Senate Bill 89. And that has 5 parts and 3 amendments and all kinds of stuff on there. I believe that all of you did receive all those amendments over the weekend to try to give you an opportunity to look them over. They are pretty much consistent with what we have talked about in prior executive sessions. So at this time, is there a motion on the bill itself? All right, the chair will move ought to pass.
I'll second.
And
All right.
we have a second, all right? There are 3 amendments on that bill. We'll take them in order. part 3 first.
Senator, did you get a chance to discuss this with Dan Healy from Derry?
I did not get a chance to, I sent email to Mr. Healy and did not get anything back from him during that time. As best I can tell, that, let me make sure that I'm, I can only conjecture.
I did. I just texted him back and forth, and apparently he said there were some that are there are some clerks who are in favor, some who are against it. So he was just I believe he said that they will just, they're going to sit back and see where this goes, basically.
Okay. The opening of the outer envelopes and pre-processing as a whole was very popular during the last election. In this bill, we did separate the two, the pre-processing of the absentee ballots and the opening of the outer envelope, and that was to give maximum time to cure because the pre-processing, the way it was structured, could not be done until after the checklist to be used at the polling place was printed, which would happen on that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday timeframe, and that this pre-processing, or I should say this opening of the outer envelopes, could take place as soon as the ballot came in from the person. So that would be my, Mr. Healy at one point did talk about making certain things optional. And I agree that the pre-processing, the actual marking up of the checklist should be optional. And I believe that the bill is consistent with that. But this ability to cure, I think, needs to be called out in statute. And I believe it should be mandatory to give everyone the ability to cure any problem like a missing signature. Also, a wrong name is listed in there. And the reason both of those are listed is because in the court decision that provided the injunction about doing checks of the signature, both of those were called out as undisputed, that you could reject a ballot for a wrong name or missing signature. And so that's why these are in there, is because the injunction does not apply to either of those occurrences. It only applies to checking the signature. So,
Could I ask a question?
absolutely, Senator.
So in this pre-processing, at what point would members of the public be able to observe the pre-processing for purposes of challenge?
Well,
the polls at this point?
The way that the bill is structured, that the challenges would actually happen on election day, to consolidate those in one place and to make it easier for those people who wanted to challenge, instead of having to be there on multiple days, they would have to be there just the morning. So that is not a change to the existing statute, but the observation of the process that throughout this, the public does have the ability to observe, okay? And I stress the word observe because remember, on election day, the moderator is going to be inside the guardrail somewhere, okay? And right now, state law only provides that an observer can be outside the guardrail and has to be, in fact, 6 feet away from the guardrail. So again, it's not that they would get to inspect the documents because that's not the intent of current law, nor the intent of this law, but they would be able to observe the process as it was going on. There was a question about if a person shows up in person, having the clerk check the signatures. And the discussion that I had with the ACLU was that what better person can you get to be an observer than the person who actually cast that ballot? And you're trying to make sure that their vote does count by doing this, so that they were not upset with that portion of it. But their procedure that the clerk will need to post needs to define, when they're going to do it. I suggested to one group, NHMA, that, the notice would go out saying, it's going to be Thursday at 4:00 until September the 7th. And then, it'll be daily after that at 4:00 or whatever. And so covering all those bases. Any additional comments, objections? Senator Ward.
Just a small thing in this, in looking at everything else. On line 17, I think the word should be determine instead of determined.
Yes, ma'am, it should be. I believe so.
Okay, that's my only comment.
Trish, if you would make note of that.
I'm sorry, where is that again?
Line 17.
It says
Roman number
determined.
3.
Okay,
Any place else I messed up? All right. Do we have a motion on this amendment?
I move out to pass.
And I'll second it. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion of ought to pass on amendment 2021-0804S as amended by the committee. I'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The next thing I would like to take up is the next amendment, and that would be for part 4. That is amendment 0496S. Do we have a motion on the amendment?
Move ought to pass.
We have a
Second.
motion ought to pass and a second. Discussion.
It's on 4. The committee established.
Senator Susie, I didn't hear you.
I said this is Roman numeral 4 on the
This
committee.
part for part 4, correct.
Yes.
Yes.
The major portion of this bill goes back to the Wyndham situation. All right, that having a committee to study post-election audit of the counting devices was how this bill started. It's a extension of the bill that was passed in the Senate last time. And during the Wyndham situation, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General's office, and the Ballot Law Commission were discussing whether or not we have the ability to actually go in, open up boxes of ballots and do other things in there. So the follow-on portion of this bill is all about making sure that they have that ability, that they can, let's see, quoting from the bill, I'm on page 2, starting around line 26. The ability to go in and look at equipment. Let me find the exact words. The equipment, books, records, papers, ballots, or other documentary material, and may examine any person under oath and subject to the pains of penalty, etc. And someone asked me about the tabulating machines. I said, well, they are equipment, And I use the word equipment because we also are looking at poll books. They would be also in the category of equipment. We have the accessible voting machine stuff, which is also would be listed under equipment. So that's why the generic word equipment is in there instead of something that was more specific in that particular part. Okay. Do we have additional questions? Comments?
I would just say it's a good way, I think, to clearly outline the jurisdiction of the Ballot Law Commission. And I think it's necessary given what happened in Wyndham and then following that, their ability to address the issue.
Well, we certainly did have several attorneys that helped to craft those words. So I may have changed one or two, but that's certainly more attorneys' words than they are my words. So we'll go from there. All right. Seeing no other discussion, we'll take the vote. Senator Birdsell, this is on Amendment 0496S.
Birdsell votes yes.
Okay. Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And so we will move on to Part 5. This is Amendment 0803S.
Did you have a conversation with, I forgot the, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Not Jane Bradstreet. The attorney that was vehemently against this, because you were going to meet with him, correct?
Mr. Head from the judicial.
Yes.
He's actually the ones that wrote the words. We did have a meeting, Ms. Bradstreet, myself, and Mr. Head. We took up every one of their objections. The bill that you see in front of you doesn't give that person any more legal authority to go into those records than a private citizen has right now. We dropped the request for additional access. We dropped a lot of the things that were objectionable to the court. In fact, I asked Attorney Head what the courts were going to do in testifying at the House, assuming that this went to the House. And he said, although they, and I'm paraphrasing, although they didn't think that it was, necessary to do this, that they did not have objections of providing those additional duties to the Register of Probate. Again, they're not providing. The only thing that's happening between the court and this office is that the $20 that's going to be collected is going to be transferred from the court back to the county for those counties that are actually doing this. Okay, and that's, if you figure that a person that would get $15 an hour after you figure in, paying Social Security and other things, which usually is referred to as a burden, okay, that their net cost to the county is going to be about $20. So that would provide them 1 hour of time, at that rate, to look over, do anything. They are not to be providing any legal advice. They are only supposed to be providing procedural advice. Look over an application and say, well, gee, you didn't put in anything in block 22. You might want to look at your inventory. Things that would normally be there don't seem to be there. Do they exist or not? Things like that. Complete information about the executor or executrix, would be stuff that they could look at. In the information that the attorney had provided, if you do the math, they get about a little over 6 calls per probate item if you divide out the numbers. There are an awful lot of questions that the people have that have filed these, and maybe even the attorneys, because we don't have any breakdown into statistics between people trying to go pro se or people with attorneys in making those calls. But the math says that they're having 30 to 40,000 calls, and they only have about 7,000 probate cases. And I'm taking those numbers as best I can remember them right now. That there is in excess of 6 calls per document that's filed. So we believe that the registers of probate can be a service. If you look at an estate that I know well, but I didn't do the work, between the attorney fees, looking at things in addition to just the probate stuff, that there was a bill from the attorney for $1,700, which part of that had been, trust documents. So they are paying considerable amount of money in these probate fees, and a considerable amount of money if they hire an attorney. The one thing that I think we need to look at in the future is forgiving some of these fees on very, very small estates. There was a comment made about someone who came in with a tax refund check, and that tax refund check was less than $300, but it had the decedent's name on it. So they couldn't cash it. And they took it to the probate people, and they said, well, it may be something that you'll want to hang up on the wall to remember them by, because you will pay more in fees and other things to get through the system than you will recoup by being able to cash that check. So again, I'm not saying do that now, because we don't have time. I think this process needs to run a little bit. But I think it's a good process. The courts have at least acquiesced that it will not harm them, and it will not cause them, any change in their procedures, etc. So if there's additional questions, we'll take those.
No, I'll just add, Senator Gray, that we just got an email from Ray Tweedy, the Register of Probate in Rockingham, because I've gotten significant pushback from Rockingham County, but it sounds like they're pretty pleased with the changes that you made in working with Attorney Head and Jane. So I'm going to vote for this, but I also have a couple other people that I want to talk to once we vote on the amendment, have them look at it and maybe address it on the floor. But if they're not happy with the changes.
Yes, ma'am. Additional. Yeah. Well, you think about this. Everyone on the screen is a ma'am except me, right?
It's true.
I'm the token. All right. Any other comments or questions? Or all right, seeing none, we'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell.
Senator Birdsell, yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator. Oh, I had a hand from Trish.
I don't remember did we have a motion and a second on this amendment?
I thought we did. If
Yeah. I
Thought it
think was the
Gray.
Senator Ward that moved ought to pass and Senator Gray seconded? Is that my recollection?
that's
Okay.
probably right.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
and
Sorry.
to eliminate any other confusion, now that we know who moved and seconded, we'll actually go and restart the roll call. Senator Birdsall,
Senator Bursell votes yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, we already have an amendment on the bill in total. Does anybody have any other amendments to consider before we go back to the ought to pass as amended motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, then we will go to call the roll on ought to pass as amended. Senator Birdsall,
Senator Bursell, yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. It's a complicated issue.
Good.
I don't mind it being on consent, but
I think it's likely to get pulled. I know Senator Birdsall said she had a couple things she wanted to review and may have questions. I think it's just easier to leave it on.
all right, so that we will do that.
Mhm.
And anything else for executive session before we start our regular
Oh,
hearing?
who's taking it out?
Oh, I think the number of questions that came up, there's only one answer to that. So yes, I will take that out.
Take one for the team, Senator.
I do want to thank you, Senator Susie, who was on the committee that packaged these things together, that this was a challenge to get this one all the moving pieces in the right places.
Yep.
All right. So seeing no other comments, do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second,
And we have multiple seconds, so we'll call the roll. Senator Birdsall,
Senator Bursell votes yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right, we are out of executive session. First bill is, I believe, House Bill 830 and 380, excuse me. Must be my dyslexia again, huh? And we can introduce the prime sponsor.
Representative Gordon is not here. Representative Porter has her hand raised, so I don't know if she's going to introduce for Representative.
If you would recognize Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I was here to introduce 383,
Okay.
but I can briefly tell you what 380 is if it's at the Grafton. Can you read the title of the bill to me?
Oh,
If you need it, if you need someone to introduce it, I can do that for you.
Yes, the title of the bill, an act relative to the election of Grafton County Commissioners.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Do you want me to introduce it, Senator Gray?
That is perfectly fine with me if you'd care to do that.
Okay. This was a bill that was introduced and passed out of the House last year and died in COVID. And it has to do with allowing the Grafton County Commissioners to rotate for a 4-year term so that they always have someone on board who has some sort of institutional knowledge about how the county runs. And if I'm remembering the bill correctly, there was very little opposition to it either last term or this year in the committee.
All right. Thank you very much. And did you want to speak on the bill other than introduction or?
Basically, I think I said what I needed to say. It's supported by the commissioners. It's supported by the Grafton County representatives, the delegation there. It was more or less a bookkeeping type of bill.
then we're going to go back to Kirsten and have her tell me who I'm going to talk to next.
Great. Our next speaker on 380 will be Kate Horgan.
Good morning, Senator Gray and members of the committee. My name is Kate Horgan. I serve as the executive director of the New Hampshire Association of Counties, which includes all the elected and appointed officials in county government. We are in support of this bill. This would add a rotating four-year term to the Grafton County Commissioners. Currently, Coos, Belknap, Carroll, Rockingham, Cheshire, Sullivan, and Merrimack all have a rotating term that operates with great success. And it's a very simple housekeeping bill that would just preserve the institutional memory of the Board of Commissioners through one election every 2 years. I'm happy to take any questions that you have, but as Representative Porter said, it is a very simple housekeeping bill.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Seeing none, my list only had the one speaker, so
Yep.
Kirsten?
We did have Omar Ahern with his hand raised, but it looks like he just put it down. So if anybody else would like to speak on 380 at this time, please raise your hand. And I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, any additional comments from anybody on the committee? Seeing none, close the public hearing. And my 9:30 is so I'm all set on the next one too. And so we have House Bill 383. And do we have the prime sponsor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am here.
All right, Representative, glad
Thank
to have
you.
you back.
Nice to see all of you. For the record, I'm Marjorie Porter. I represent Hillsborough District 1 in the towns of Hillsborough, Antrim, and Windsor. And this bill, again, is a bill that was passed through the House last term unanimously. It's a housekeeping bill that was requested by the Department of Revenue Administration, and I believe that there should be a representative from DRA here to address exactly what the bill does. But basically, it's to allow towns to have quarterly assessments of taxes, or that's the wrong term, I know, but it's to help to prevent taxpayers, property taxpayers, from having a big shock in their tax bill when a change of amount of money is changed greatly in the budget. So I know that I did a terrible job introducing that, but I know the person from DRA will do a much better job and will answer your questions on it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I guess we'll go to, is it Carolyn?
Yes, we'll bring in Carolyn Lear.
Morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Carolyn Lear. I'm the Assistant Commissioner at the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration. Thank you for considering HB 383 today. This bill has its roots in a situation that actually happened in my hometown, the town of Goffstown, where the school district discovered an accumulated fund balance of about $10 million. And the town decided to use that money to offset the tax rate in the 2018 tax year. This caused a one-time significant drop in the property tax rate for the town of Goffstown for the tax year 2018. And because property taxes for the first billing are calculated using the amount of money that was to be raised in the prior year, if Goffstown had done nothing and just sent out their tax bills to citizens, they would have substantially over-collected for the 2018 tax year. They would have collected more than the 50% that is normally collected for the first tax billing. And then in the second tax billing would have had very little to collect. This was an undesirable result for the town of Goffstown, and we understood why. So they petitioned to the Department of Revenue and requested that we preemptively recalculate their first billing tax rate to account for this extra $10 million in revenue that they had for the 2018 year only. We thought that was a good thing to do, but the statute itself is unclear as to whether or not the department has the authority to do that. So this bill would just make clear that in instances where there's a 15% or greater fluctuation in the amount of property taxes that need to be collected, that the department does have the authority to recalculate the rate based on a municipal request. I also think that this is a good idea so that there's no sort of question about how much of a change is material enough to warrant the recalculation. The statute would read that a 15% fluctuation is what is considered to be sufficient to warrant the recalculation. So it's not left to our discretion, which I think is a good thing. I also suspect that some municipalities just never thought of making this request because the ability to do so isn't clear in the statute. So theoretically, maybe more municipalities would use this option to prevent sort of the whipsawed collection of property taxes in instances where there has been a significant change. I believe you all have a letter of testimony signed by Commissioner Stepp in your inboxes. I sent that last Friday. So with that, I'll end my testimony and I'm happy to answer the committee's questions.
Senator Perkins Coker.
Yeah, has there been any conversation with the Municipal Association about this bill?
There has been, yeah, actually we meet pretty regularly with leadership at the Municipal Association. I believe that they testified in favor of this bill through the House process. I'm not sure if they're here today or not to do the same.
Thank you.
I do see Cordell Johnson in the list of attendees. I don't know if he's added himself to the list or has raised his hand. But if he would like to be recognized, I certainly would entertain that at this time. Cordell?
Yes. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do support this bill. I think you should have a letter, or if you don't yet, you should soon receive a letter from Becky Benvenuti of our office in support of the bill.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from committee members for Carolyn or Cordell? Senator Perkins Coker.
Yeah, so just to be clear, this doesn't restrict the ability of municipalities to make their budget and raise their revenue. Essentially, it just allows them to submit an amendment to the DRA after they've set their official tax rate for the year in order to prevent jumps. But I guess I'd love a little bit more detail on how those two concepts connect, because I just want to make sure you're not altering budget processes.
Cordell, I'll let you take that one first.
Unfortunately, I have not studied the bill that carefully. All I know is that that we do support it, and I am quite sure it does not affect the municipality's ability to appropriate funds. But I can get clarification on that from Becky Benvenuti and have her address that in her letter if you want.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks, Cordell.
Sure.
Ms. Lear, did you have any comments on that question?
Sure, thank you for the question, Senator. So in a typical year, I think it's helpful to sort of talk through the timeline. So typically, towns and cities will set their budgets, this time of year. And the first property tax bill, if you're a semi-annual billing town, would go out sometime in June or July, typically. But we would not, at the department, set the tax rate until October. All this bill does is say that the town can essentially ask for an early tax rate in the month to effectuate the change earlier for the month of June billing. Typically, the June billing would be based on the prior year's budget. And so it essentially just accelerates the department's timeline to calculate the municipality's tax rate in June rather than in the fall. So no, to your question directly, this would not impact the budget process in the town at all, simply the tax rate setting process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Additional questions for either of these two people? All right, thank you very much. And I don't have anybody else on the list that I have. Kirsten, you have anybody?
No, if you'd like to speak on HB 383 and you haven't already, please raise your hand. And I'm not seeing any hands.
All right. So we'll close the public hearing on 383. And
Do you want to move into exec?
that would be fine with me if, all right, we have a motion to go into exec. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second to go into exec. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. I'm guessing that we're going to get a motion on House Bill 380.
I move ought to pass.
I have a motion of ought to pass on House Bill 380. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Do I have a motion and a second? Okay, discussion. Seeing that we've taken care of all of that discussion, we'll move to vote on the motion. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Do I have a further motion on the bill?
Move
Consent,
consent.
We have a motion and a second to go to consent. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And who would like to take that out?
I'll take it out.
All right, Senator Ward. Okay. I think that on House Bill 383, Senator Perkins Quokka, you were the one that asked the questions. If you're sufficiently satisfied, then I would move that or ask someone for a motion. If you are not, then I will delay that until the next time we meet to give you the opportunity to further investigate anything you want. Senator, it's looking for comments from you.
Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate the answers I received. I'm fine to vote on this today, but I would appreciate receiving the follow-up information discussed just so I have it.
Yes, ma'am. I can't promise you that since I'm not providing it, but I'm sure that you can strong arm somebody to do it if they don't.
Mhm.
All right. So I have a motion of ought to pass, I think, from
Me.
Senator Birdsell. Chair
Second.
will second it, or looks like Senator Susie seconded it. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Do I have a further motion?
Move consent.
Senator
Second.
Susie moves consent. Looks like Senator Birdsell seconded. Senator Birdsell, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Do I have a volunteer to take this one out?
I'll take it out.
Senator Birdsell. Procedural. We have now taken care of every bill that has been assigned to us. I think that before anything else gets assigned to us, it may take the House having a meeting so that they can pass the stuff that will come to us. I don't think that there's one scheduled for this week in the House because the news hasn't had any indication of lawsuits filed or anything else at the present time. So unless you hear from us differently, we will be able to sleep in next week on Monday, which probably is welcome. And so,
Some of us will anyway.
is there any other questions or comments for the executive session?
No. Move we come out of executive session.
We have a motion and we have a motion and a second to come out of executive session. I'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Cuoco,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Any other comments before we adjourn? Seeing none, I'm sure I've got a motion out there to adjourn.
So moved.
And a
Second.
second. Okay, call the roll. Senator Birdsall,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Cuoco,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you all, and we'll see you, if not before, we'll see you on Thursday. So.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
One.
Have a good rest of the week.
Yes.
Two.